What's up, everyone? Welcome back. Happy Friday. Kieran, I see happy Friday. Hopefully you enjoy Sarasota tomorrow against the Twins. Welcome into another edition of the Ryan Ripken Show. I'm not Ryan Ripken. I'm Zach Bollinger, and I'm just going to say it. I'm starting to feel like the substitute teacher who, I'm like, hey, guys, we got a movie today. No classwork. We got a movie today. Here's what the professor left. So that's what we're doing. We got another interview today, but I will say this is one of my favorites, if not my favorite interview that we've done, sitting down when Ryan sat down with Will Clark. If you want to learn about hitting, if you want to know how the best hit the baseball, listen to this interview because it is absolutely incredible. But before we get into the interview, let's go over to our friends over at AutoStream. AutoStream Car Care Center. Say that 10 times fast. $50 off when you mention Ryan Ripken. Hey, summer's coming, spring's coming. I don't really feel like it all the time right now, but it is on its way. So head on over to our friends at AutoStream Car Care Center to get all you need done with your car and get $50 off. Hey, you have to get something done anyway. Head on over to AutoStream and get $50 off on the Ryan Ripken Show. But after the interview, might have a few talking points, all of that. But without further ado, here is one of our best interviews, personally, I think we've ever done. Here is Ryan sitting down with MLB legend Will Clark.
Will the Thrill. Appreciate you taking time. And I always like to start it off with some stories. You didn't spend a lot of time in the minor leagues, but you did have some moments in college baseball. Can you start the story off with us of one that maybe jumps to your mind from your days down in Mississippi State?
And I mean, it doesn't matter what level you're on. You always get these funny stories. Baseball just, for whatever reason, brings them out. Mississippi State, I was fortunate enough to get a little playing time in my freshman year. I didn't start. I about 2/3 of the way through the season. I was coming in for like defensive replacement, pinch hitting, and then about 2/3 of the way through the season, the gentleman that was in front of me hurt a thumb and he had to miss a game. And it was actually a doubleheader at Auburn, and I hit a homer in both ends of the doubleheader, and needless to say, kind of Wally pipped him. And so, a few years later. One of the beautiful things about being in college at that time was we were able to go try out for the U.S. Olympic team. So that was in '84 in L.A. It was a demonstration sport. It wasn't a gold medal sport yet, and that was just phenomenal. Being a college player, walking out there with USA across your chest, and everybody in Dodger Stadium going crazy. And then you fast forward the next year. I'm in the College World Series, having a really good year, and get drafted in the morning, first round, second pick by the Giants. And that night, go out there and go 3 for 4 with 4 RBIs against Arkansas to win a game in the College World Series. So that was kind of my summation really quick of my college career.
Yeah, and you obviously you were one of the best. I mean, you won the Golden Spikes Award from USA Baseball. You're talking about the USA Olympic team. I'll boost you up here, but you it's just the facts. When you did play in that Olympic run, I think you also led the team in batting average, hits, RBIs. You were a dude. You were a dude when you took over. You did.
Well, it was one of those things. You've done it, in pro ball. I know your dad's done it quite a bit, your uncle. But you get on that roll, and when you're on that wave, man, you want to ride that wave as long as possible. And I was fortunate enough to do it in college, and then it kind of shifted over into pro ball. And you blink, and then all of a sudden you're in the major leagues. You're like, oh man, that that wave right there was going pretty quick for a while. And then fortunate enough to play in the big leagues for quite a while, and then get traded down the line and go free agent down the line, all that sort of stuff, and wound up being able to play with your dad after playing against him for so long. I was able to play on the same field with him. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, don't worry. We'll get into that down the
Ah,
stretch here. Because I got
ah,
some questions, especially about maybe a story you've told, and I've heard some other sides of that story. But, you're talking about riding that wave. And you did have a little bit of the express route once you got into pro ball, right? And you were able to get up to the bigs fairly quickly. But I want to circle real quick before we jump into the pro ball and Major League Baseball and all of that. Correct me if I'm wrong, you were drafted out of high school, correct? And you turned it
I was
down.
drafted out of high school in the fourth round in 1982. The first round pick, I got drafted by the Royals, by the way.
Mhm.
First round pick that year was Brett Saberhagen. So I was in the same class as Brett Saberhagen, and then he was either 2 or 3 with Steve Balboni, another first baseman that made it to the major leagues. And then I was the fourth pick. And, I had never really been away from home. So I kind of was thinking about that, and then I knew that I wanted, a college education at some point, and so I asked the Royals to like pay for my college education if I decided to go there during the off season and try to get a degree, and they wouldn't do it. So I said, well, let me go to college. I got a ride there. So
So why Mississippi State? What made
At the
you
time, LSU wasn't really good. That was before Skip Bertman. And
Yep.
then they another team that they had that was down here that was really good was UNO. He had Augie Schmidt was a Golden Spikes Award winner, and they had been to the College World Series. So that was the other team that was kind of high on my list. But I kept looking back at it, and I kept saying, I don't want to play against guys I've been playing against since I'm that big. I want different competition. I want better competition. And so I said, let me go to the SEC route. And Mississippi State was after me pretty hot and heavy, and they had a position at first base open. So I went that route.
Yeah, I'm always curious how it works out, but I love the fact that you had to wait your turn. And also, if people miss the Wally Pipp reference, go look up Lou Gehrig and how he
Yeah.
got his start, because that's where
Yeah.
it all goes back to. And that's actually, Will, a big reason why my dad, besides that, he was able to play and play well for a long period of time, he also didn't want to give another person an opportunity, because you never know if there's going to be a guy, I don't know, like a Will Clark that's going to step in, hit 2 jacks, and well,
Yeah.
hey, you might be shit out of luck on what
Yeah,
happens.
no, you're right. You're right. And that's the thing, I mean, in the era of your father and myself, you had job security as long as you were doing really well. If you weren't doing really well, you were out of there. And there was no guaranteed contracts and all that kind of craziness. So, you went out there, you wanted to play every day, you wanted to succeed every day, you wanted to become a fan favorite, make it harder for them to move you. And the guys that came up there, and I tell people till this day, you came up to the major leagues back in the 80s and you hit 240, you were gone. You weren't in the major leagues. Now you got guys hitting 220 for a full year in the major leagues, and they got job security. I'm like, Jesus, that guy ought to be in AAA.
Mm. I don't know. Well, I think batting average doesn't matter, right? I can clearly
No.
tell in your eyes, batting average don't mean a thing anymore. I'll
Yep.
I'll let that marinate, because I got a few things in the hitting side, and this is why I love talking to you. You were, when you played for since 1986, when you debuted to your last day in 2000, I mean, you raked. And I know you dealt
Yeah.
with injuries, but you raked. Uh,
Yeah.
and you said in the blink of an eye, now you get to the pros. You spent 85, you go to Fresno, you get drafted second overall, but 86, you're in the bigs. Just
Yeah.
like
No,
that. So
it's
what?
amazing. So
Yeah, go ahead. Go
yeah,
ahead.
so I get drafted in '85 and show up in Fresno, which was high A ball for us at the time. I homered in my first at bat in the minor leagues. We wind up myself, our number 2 pick, which was a right hand pitcher from TCU. His name was Brian Anutka, and then my teammate at Mississippi State, Jeff Brantley, who is the SEC leader in all pitching categories. He was a number 8 or 9 pick. And so the three of us wound up going to Fresno, and we turned that whole ball club around. We went 50-15 in the second half, wound up winning the Cal League title. I went to instructional ball that fall, and put it mildly, I was raking. and they sent me home. They were like, just go home and relax and take it easy. I came into spring training next year in 1986. I was a non-roster player, was slated to go to AAA, and I was up against Dan Dreesen, the former member of the Big Red Machine. And he had a bad spring training, and on the flip side of things, I was raking again, and the Giants gave me the job, and I was like, oh my God, I was like, that was a whirlwind, just journey for a few months. And then all of a sudden you start thinking about it and you look forward and you're like, oh, wait a second. I'm going to have opening day against the legendary Nolan Ryan. That's my welcome to the big leagues.
Yeah. So set the stage there. I mean, look, you said you homered in your first at bat in the minors. Well, first major league at bat, April 8th, 1986.
Yep.
And it was your first swing in the big leagues.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. No.
And you took,
I talked to some of my veterans, and I'm like, what do you think? What I should look for? He said, usually he works away. So I'm like, okay, that gives me a pretty good idea. So I get up there, and I got the butterflies going just like anybody would, right? I get up there and the first pitch, he throws me a breaking ball. I was like, whoa, geez, but the thing was, I saw it pretty good. I was like, okay. And it was actually probably the best thing he could ever done because he let me settle into the at bat. I got the butterflies out the way. I got to see a pitch, even though it wasn't a pitch I wanted to hit. And then the second pitch, he missed up and away with a fastball. And the third pitch was the fastball. And, when I caught that 1-1 fastball, it made the best sound you've ever heard. I mean, you know it, your dad knows it, everybody knows it. When you catch one dead center, I mean, it's like you hit something with a 2x4. It is just this god awful, just whack. And man, when I hit it, I was like, uh-oh. And it wound up going out of center field at the Astrodome, and I floated around home plate, pointed to my family in the stands, high-fived everybody, and then sat on the bench. And whenever I had something good go on in my life, I had this sense of calm afterwards. So I'm sitting on the bench, and this sense of calm comes over me, and then all of a sudden it kind of hits me, and I look to the side, and it was my teammate Chili Davis, and I go, he's gonna drill me next time up. He goes, oh hell yeah. And so the next time up, Nolan's in his windup, and I'm like, one of them numbers, and he buzzed the tower. So
damn. Hey, that was a different brand of baseball back then. You were feeling good, but just the next at bat, he's going to remind you that, some of those things, not saying it don't fly here, but don't get comfortable.
That's right. Hey, look, you're a rookie, and you got me, but I got 20-something years in, and I'm still a big dog,
Oh, God. See, that's why I love the history of the game and the different eras. And obviously the era that you played in, by the way, was so exciting to watch. And also to finish up the home run thing, by the way, didn't you, if I'm not mistaken, also a few days later, you went deep at Candlestick in your first home game?
Yeah.
What is with you? What is with you in these first time moments, Will?
I don't know. It's just, I was always one of those guys that I loved, and your dad and I had talked about it a lot. I love being up there when the lights are on. When the bright lights are shining, I wanted to bat. I wanted to be in the batter's box. And, a lot of good things happen. Like you said, first at bat at Candlestick, homer. First at bat as a Cardinal in Busch Stadium, homer. Last at bat in the major leagues, homer. So, I've lived a pretty good life. But then again, it's one of those things where, you don't get too caught up in the moment. Yeah, I mean, it's a big situation. It is a huge situation, but you still got to breathe. You got to separate, your anxiety from, hey, I need to concentrate on my job here. And I was able to do that and have success with it. So.
Yeah, I would say so. And what I find from all of that is what you said about you had a sense of calm. And I wish, and this, I wish that every player could say, yeah, I'm here right after. I'm relaxed. But you and I both know that's the human element of the game. Some of the most talented guys don't actually go on to be that all-star Hall of Fame caliber player because they can't keep their composure. They can't figure out their adjustments. It's the mental side that is so important. Staying calm, understanding what you got to do to be able to go out there and excel. I mean, hell, you had a lot of big moments throughout the time. I mean, you flash forward, it's 1989, if I'm not mistaken. You know, you had success in the NLCS, right? And the reason why I bring this up, those are big moments. And you're able to calm yourself. I guess you said calm yourself on the in the dugout, but how do you keep yourself calm and what's going through your mind when you're in the batter's box? How about that?
When you're in the batter's box, in order to calm yourself down there, first off, take a deep breath. You know, whether you're toeing the slab as a pitcher, whether you're in the batter's box as a hitter, take a deep breath and calm yourself down. All right, that's first off. Second off is focus. You know, a lot of people take in everything going on around them, and all I'm doing is I'm trying to find that baseball release point, and I'm trying to concentrate on the ball coming out of his hand ASAP. And you know, I found that got me kind of locked in and got me kind of situated up at home plate. And we all have plenty of failure as hitters, but when I was having problems was when I wasn't focused, when I wasn't concentrating. I was letting kind of little things, you know, dictate the at-bats. And it's like, no, let me focus. Once I focused, everything was fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's simplifying it. At the end of the day, you have to simplify your approach. You have to simplify your mindset. And if you have anything else going on besides trying to be relaxed in the moment, usually leads to disaster, unless like having a game plan, right? You got to have a game plan when you're going up there of what you're looking for, what you're trying to do. But that is, you know, it's people look at it like, what's the secrets? Well, the secrets is figuring out what works for you at the dish and then being able to, in the big moments, not get too big. You know, in that NLCS in game one, which you had a day in Chicago, by the way.
Yeah.
I think it was the infamous, or they talked about you were going deep off Greg Maddux. There was an article that was out there. Is that true?
Yeah,
You're reading the lips, you're watching the game. And
no, I mean, I had, you know, I mean, it was kind of common sense.
Yeah.
But then it was straight paying attention to the game. Observation was my first at bat. Maddox threw me a sinker away, and I went to left field and I hit a double RBI. Next at bat, he went away every pitch, and I hit a 3-2 changeup. I kind of hooked him out of right center. In the meantime, we had two left-handers, Brett Butler and Pat Sheridan, in our lineup, and he is pounding them in. So, I mean, it kind of makes sense. Now, he's pitched me away the whole time, and he hasn't thrown me a ball in. He's going to have to throw me something in. And, you know, I'm sitting there watching him, and Don Zimmer, who is his manager, goes out to the mound, and Maddox, needless to say, is taller than Zimmer. And he's looking right at you know, Zimmer, and he goes, fastball in. And I was like, whoa. You know, and so I'm standing next to Kevin Mitchell, and I looked at him. I go, did you see what he just said? And he goes, no, what did he say? I said, he said fastball in. He said, what you going to do? I said, I'm going to back off the plate and look fastball in. And sure enough, first pitch, fastball in, grand slam. You know, it was one of those things where you go, thank God I didn't miss it. But I got the pitch that I was looking for just because using common sense and observing what's going on in the game. It's like, wait a second, I'm looking out there and, oh, shoot, he said it. He said he's coming in. And I didn't tell anybody. Kevin Mitchell wound up telling some of our teammates, who in turn told several members of the media. And then the next year we go to spring training, everybody's putting their glove over their face like that. So I was like, man, if I'd have known that, I wouldn't have told anybody anything.
And so you're the one that the trend started of putting the glove over the face, because
yep, it started right there.
But you know what? I love that. This is being observant. And in a day and age where people can look at how do you help yourself, watch the game, watch the pitcher. And who knows, he might give you a verbal answer of what's happening, or we talk about they might hold their glove a certain way on tipping pitches. Remember how he pitches you, right? You know, that's the part where later on I want to talk more about hitting and the analytics and, that whole conversation, because I think that that's just, to me, I get fascinated by it. And you know me, I grew up with this background, and there's still a value of watching the game that you can't quantify in my mind in any metric out there. It's just
Right.
the common
And
sense.
you're exactly correct. And, some of the stuff that I try to teach to, some of our younger players and even our major leaguers is, exactly like you said, observe the game. Okay. If, 4 out of 5 pitches, they're going away from you. Guess what? You need to look away. Why look for that one pitch in? Look away. That's where the majority of the pitches are going to be. Generally, that's where he's going to make a mistake, is out there, and vice versa. If they're pounding you in, okay, all right, fine. Back off the plate. Give yourself a little room in there and hunt a pitch in there. So, being a major leaguer, you try to give yourself the most possibility of success. And for me, it was cutting the plate in half. So instead of covering 17 inches, now I'm covering 8, and I'm either looking away or in. And on top of that, I'm moving around the batter's box to give myself a little bit better swings on that zone that I'm looking for.
See, when I talked about keeping it simple, baseball's hard enough. Simplify what your approach is going to be. You control what you want to do. I always felt when I had too many thoughts or I was trying to do too much, the results didn't go the way that I wanted. But if I went up there and had that definitive plan and I executed that, more times than not, I had success. And for you, I like that. Split the plate. You choose what you want to do. And I think a lot of hitters would benefit from understanding, well, again, also that worked for you, but also how to get yourself out of a funk. There's more ways than just going into the cage each time and trying to feel it, which you want to.
Yeah.
But
and then not only that too, everybody thinks now in this day and age, oh, I missed a pitch because my hands weren't here, or, I did this, or my feet were too wide. It's all mechanics. No. You missed a pitch because this is the hardest thing to do in professional sports. Hit a round ball with a round bat while it's moving at 90-something miles an hour. All right. It's the toughest thing to do. But people want to be mechanical. And exactly what you just said, it's all about a feel. It is all about a feel. You get up there and you take a swing and you foul a ball straight back, you're all over that pitch. You just missed it, and that's that feel. A lot of times when you're in a funk, it's that foul ball. You go, oh, that was it right there. That was it. I just missed it, but that was the swing, And so, in our day and age, it was a feel. Now it's way more mechanical, and I'm trying to get guys kind of away from that and say, hey, did you feel this when you took that swing? Did you feel that when you took that swing? And So
at the end of the day, you can't help them in the batter's box. It's them that has to understand it. And when you're swinging and people are talking about, hey, if we're talking about mechanics, it doesn't matter if this doesn't connect to this. If you can't compartmentalize that where it makes sense to you and it feels good, it has to feel good. No one ever goes, man, my swing feels like shit and I'm going to have success, right? You have to feel what's going to happen for you to be able to go out there and make the adjustments. Table that for a second, because I want to ask you later on about how do you get out of slumps, or how do you reset your mind that maybe doesn't require, maybe it's a little bit extracurriculars or maybe off the field that I think is just as important. But you basically went through about everything, I think, in your career, as far as you multi-time All-Star. You had so much success in every place that you went, but you also then had to deal with free agency. Did you like free agency? I know it's way different now, but was that talked about the free agent experience for you?
I mean, I wanted to be like your dad. I wanted to be, a guy who'd stayed with one organization his whole time. And, I tried to do that there at the end of my career in San Francisco, and I was not allowed to. I was basically told, go free agent. And so I had to go through that process. And, it wasn't fun. You got agents that handle all that sort of stuff, but it's the not knowing, it's the what's going to happen in the future type of thing. And so, I wound up going to Texas. Then a few years later, I went to Baltimore, and then I got traded to St. Louis there at the end of my career. I would much rather be traded than have to go through the free agent market again. It was just pain for me. But once I got wherever I was, that's the team that I dedicated myself to. And so, for me personally, I was fortunate enough to play on the West Coast, the Central, and then the East Coast. And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, you became seasoned and you
Yeah.
adapted well. I mean, you couldn't tell that you had struggles because do you know what your lowest batting average ever in a season was? I'm curious now.
I want to say it was either 282 or 287.
282, man, slouch.
There
You
you
were an
go.
all-star that year too, Will.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I had
282.
all right, this is all right. So this is the way the game is different. Okay.
Yep.
And was it 282? Was that in 88?
Man, steel trap. Yep.
Okay, so I hit 282. I had 20 something homers and I had 116 RBIs. I led the National League that year, right? And so we go in for, what they call the exit meetings or whatever after the season's over. I got 3 years in the big leagues. This is the first time that I hit third in the lineup. Before that, I was kind of all over the lineup. So I just stayed in that same spot. 116 RBIs, led the NL. So I'm like, okay, I'm expecting like a little pat on the back. Hey, nice job, that kind of thing, right? I walked in and my general manager, his name was Al Rosen. He was the 1954 AL MVP. And he made up some number. I don't even know what it was. But first thing out of his mouth, he goes, "You're going to switch your swing around." And I go, "Excuse me?" And he goes, "You hit," and he, like I said, he made this number up, 17 double play ground balls. And I go, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah." He says, "If you're going to be my number 3 hitter for the rest of your career," he says, "you are not going to take us out of big innings because you hit double play ground balls." And I stepped back and I was like, "You know what, Al?" I said, "You are absolutely correct." I said, "I took us out of so many innings where I could have kept the inning going without hitting into a double play. And maybe the guy behind me, who's our 4-hole hitter, who's the MVP that year, maybe he could go deep, and that kind of thing." And so that whole offseason, Dusty Baker was my hitting instructor. Dusty and I worked on simplifying some moves, cutting down some big moves into smaller moves. And as a result, my timing got better. My point of contact to the ball got better. And 1989, I had my best year ever in the major leagues. And after that, I walked up to Al Rosen and I told him, I said, "Thank you." And I shook his hand. I said, "Thank you." I said, "You did not let me sit on any laurels last year, and you knew there was more in the tank, and you got it out of me."
I love that. I'll be honest, I didn't know where that was going to go for a second. If that was going to be hey, screw you, or hey, I'm going to work, because 282 and you had 29 jacks, 31 doubles. You had 6 triples, dude. You had some wheels. You know for speed.
That candlestick was chain link. Sometimes that ball hit the chain link. Who knows where the hell
Who
it
knows
went.
where it was?
But here's the thing. All right. So here's the thing. So it would be like, here's Ryan Ripken in AAA, and Will Clark comes in to talk to him. "Hey, what about doing this? Hey, what about doing that?" Instead of being combative, how about taking advice or taking just a little something from an all-star that's trying to help you? And so I flipped it around. So now the guys who helped me in like spring training and stuff like that, Willie Mays, Willie McCovey, every time they were around, man, I was picking their brain on something, right? And so now I tell you, Al Rosen, the AL 54 MVP, he's no slouch. He knows what the hell he's doing. He's telling me I need to get better. I need to improve my swing. And it's like, okay, these are the veterans that have passed the game down to us, and they know better than we know because we're young guys. We just beating our head against the wall sometimes. And so I took it to heart. It was the best lesson I ever had in the major leagues.
I love that because I think it's not just in baseball, Will. Like it's in everything where people can say it's a different day and age, which it is. It's a different day and age, but great players or people that have had the experience, whether it was now, 10 years prior, 20 years, 30 years, the game is the game.
Yeah.
Mindset's the mindset. And if they have success and they've done a lot of good things, you talk to them for just 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, you might be able to take one little thing away there. I still remember Frank Robinson told my dad something with his swing when he was really struggling. And the next year, or at the end of the year, he started to pick it up, went into the whole offseason. And then my dad had his best year, one of his best years, and won his second MVP in 91, right? So it sticks out and you go, damn. And that was Frank, best players that played, didn't play at that time, but saw something. My dad took it to heart, and ended up having the success. And I hope that people understand, and I get it. Things are different, but if you know, you know. And for you, you did hit 333 that next year, by the way. You had over 100 RBIs in 3 of the 4 seasons, including the 1 year where you were told to change some things. I still can't get over the fact that you had 47 triples in your career.
Yeah. I guess I want to say before I found out about Coors Light, I could run a little bit.
Is that what happened?
So your dad and I always had that discussion in the clubhouse because he's a Budweiser dude, right? And I'd break out the Coors Light and I'd say, see, it comes from the pristine top of the Rockies. I said, yours comes from the bottom of the Mississippi. I said, I'm from New Orleans. I know it comes down that river, Cal. And so we laughed and giggled in the clubhouse all the time about that.
Yeah, so those are the stories I love, right? So when I say about when things are going well or not going well, I told people, at least what I grew up on understanding, is you have a lot of those moments right there. And they might seem stupid, but also they might be some of the best moments you look back on. So when things were rough or things were going well, talk about some of those moments in the clubhouse of whether it was drinking a beer, talking about the game, or if you have something that sticks out into your mind that really kind of encapsulates what that type of like community was. Because I think I learned, even in my days at the end, I would learn so much just sitting there, and then maybe some other crazy shit would happen. But you understand where I'm going with this.
I know exactly where you're going with it. So after the games were over in San Francisco, the veterans would call a round table, and you'd have 15, 20 guys stay after the game drinking beer. All the rookies had to get up, go get the beers for everybody and all that sort of stuff. And it was always, hey, you did this really well. Hey, what were you looking for here? Because you had a good swing right here. Or flip side of things, you would say, well, why weren't you in cutoff position over here? Why were you lagging behind here? Needed to get you over here during cutoff. So whatever it might be. And so that's kind of how a lot of us younger guys learn the game, was these round tables. And then you fast forward a little bit. I get the free agent and go to Texas. I got 8 or 9 years in. Now I am running the round tables and trying to affect people like Rusty Greer and Pudge Rodriguez was a younger player at the time, trying to affect these guys and make them not have the failures that we had. And even your Uncle Billy, he played right next to me, at second base in Texas, and so he was part of those round tables too, having a few pops at the end of the game and teaching the young guys. And that has kind of gone by the wayside. Being, around baseball right now, I mean, once the game's over now, I mean, the clubhouse is, butt ass empty, about 30 minutes after the game. Ain't got nobody there. And so that was never the way it was. It was always the guys talking shop and just kind of fixing the problems or patting the other guys on the back, telling them, hey, nice job. You did this good. You did that good.
Yeah, it can be a learning experience, it can be a lifting up experience, or hell, it can just be therapy.
Yeah.
And the one story that you told about my dad in the Metrodome, I think is the one we talked about. So you know what, Will? I heard it, I saw that, and I go, I know that story. But the funny part is he left out a couple details of maybe how how it ended. But he told me that story of, yep, he was pissed off, right? He was struggling at that time.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I got to let off some steam. And so you volunteered then to help that process, therapy, so to speak.
No, that we put it this way. We we were in the Metrodome and your dad was scuffling. I wasn't tearing the cover off the ball, so I had a few little demons running around up there. And when we got through, there was not a beer to be found in that clubhouse. And but that was before Ubers and all that craziness and all that. So we both of us pulled up a seat on the training tables. We went to sleep right there on the training tables. Got up the next day. We had, believe it or not, we had a day game. And I do remember going up to home plate that day. And the first pitch, there was like 8 of them coming at me. And I go, oh, Jesus, let me pick the one in the middle. That one ain't moving as much as the other ones. And I think I went 2 for 3 or something like that. And I think your dad went 3 for 4 or something like that. And I went up to him afterwards and I patted him on the back. I said, we got it out of our system. He goes, hell yeah, we're off and running now.
It's funny how that works. And actually that I used to be such a routine guy where if my batting practice, I had to feel a certain way, I had to get the feel. As I got older, I realized I might have the best batting practice in the world and the most horseshit game because that's just how it works. And the opposite, you have the worst batting practice and go out there and go 4 for 4. But I remember I was really scuffling in the minors and I'm like, I can't get out of my head. And my dad, I finally then was of age and whatnot. He goes, you know what you can do? And I go, what? He goes, I got into some tequila. He goes, maybe throw some back and then just say, screw it. I go, what do you mean by that? And he goes like, you know what I mean by that. I said, okay. So I let loose. Me and a couple of the guys let loose. And sure enough, I think I had 2 or 3 hits the next day, went on a 5 or 6 game hitting streak, 4 multi-hit games. I went, damn, this thing might be real. And I'm sure you had a few more of those moments throughout your career, Will, right?
Oh yeah. We definitely had moments like that. But I tell the guys now, I mean, I started laughing and giggling because I'm walking around the clubhouse, with a beer after the games, and they get their smoothies or their shakes or whatever it is, and they look at me and they go, what's up with the beer and all that? I go, well, you can't burn an 0 for 4 with a protein shake, but you can with a bunch of these.
It's something that I always look back on and I always love that because I think it also through good, bad, and the ugly, it still built that camaraderie. And that's something that you talked about. And you had that. I mean, 15 years in the big leagues, Will? 86 to 2000. Your career 303. Is that right? Something like that. That's it. That's all you could do for that time.
That's all I could do. That's it.
303, man. Damn. Well, you know what? In my mind, for certain guys, and you were raking when you got traded. You said when you went over to St. Louis, you were sniffing 350 hitting over there, and you could have kept playing. In my mind, Will, if you had kept playing, I think you would have had a legit shot at the Hall, just because your numbers over the time were impressive.
Yeah, no, my numbers are solid across the board. I'm just lagging a little bit, on homers. And to be totally honest, I'm not making an excuse for this. I'm just being honest. I played in Candlestick Park, the toughest place in the world to play, first off. And then second off, it's one of those places where, you'd catch one day. I mean, catch one. And the right fielder would come running in on it. And the next day you catch the same ball and it's 40 rows deep. So Candlestick definitely cost me. But then again, I kind of know where you were going with this because you and I had talked earlier.
Yeah.
But, I had 15 years in the big leagues and had done a lot of good things, and we had a son that was autistic. And the year before, during the offseason, I was with Baltimore, by the way,
Mhm.
and we had seen a big improvement in him when I was home and dealing with him day to day. And, I told my wife, I said, that's probably going to be it, And then, I get traded to St. Louis, as you alluded to, and went off. I mean, went off in the second half. And we made it to the playoffs. We were one game away from going to the series. And I stepped back, and Tony La Russa was my manager in St. Louis, and he said, "Hey, I want you back." And I said, "Well, I would love to be back." I said, "St. Louis was freaking baseball heaven." He said, "But Big Mac's coming back." Talking about Mark McGuire, who's coming back. He was having surgery. He said, "So he's going to be the first baseman." He said, "You're going to have to be an outfielder or utility guy." And I was like, that's the old dog, new tricks thing. And so I looked at what was out there, and it was Pittsburgh and Milwaukee who were at that time. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna go home and be daddy and hubby and make sure that my family's squared away. And so I just walked away. And looking back on it, I don't regret it. I don't regret a damn thing. I could have played, 2 or 3 more years and got the 300 homers, and maybe built more of a case for the Hall of Fame or whatever it might be. But that's not why I got into sport. I got into sport because I loved and still love the competition. It's, getting up there like you and I were talking about before, getting up there, concentrating, dead center in that son of a gun, and then trying to find that green grass out there.
When I look at that, and people, and maybe I was skewed growing up, right, Will, where I was. And then I learned that, hey, not everyone's dad plays baseball. And everyone's dad's going to go to the Hall of Fame. No, it's not how that works, and
Yeah.
he's going to play with the same team for 21 years. Like, he said all the wrong examples for me, Will. Right? Like, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But I'm sitting here and I'm going, as you get older and you realize how hard it is to get to college to play, get into pro ball, get up the ranks, and then get to the big leagues alone, and then have the staying power. And, nowadays we're not seeing the staying power as much, just for how it changes. And you were one of the guys that can say, yeah, I played 15 years in the show and did some special things, but you walked away on your terms and what you thought was best. And I think sometimes when I look back and I tell people about some of the greats, they don't need to have the plaque next to him to say, he was one hell of a player. He was one of the best players when we played. I think it's a reminder for a lot of people. There's so many other players that are in that situation like you that, damn, they chose to do something else, but they very well could have been one of the ones that you would hear more and more about. So, and that's why I know you're always family oriented. You're always one of the most authentic guys. And my father alludes to it. I see it everywhere. I mean, you and Eric Burns are very colorful.
Animated.
Yeah, animated is one way to put it. Animated, but I love that. I think people love that about you, love that about him. And maybe as it kind of wrap it up here, and you mentioned 2 questions, 3, and get you out of here. You mentioned about Candlestick, and you mentioned about in the big leagues, and I mentioned a couple in the time of it. Your first home run in Candlestick. Are there any memories then that stick out to you when you played that you hold on to all these years later?
I mean, you can't. First off, you can't top your first at bat in the major leagues and hitting a homer off of Nolan. I mean, that's fairy tale stuff. So, but then you fast forward a little bit in '89 in the NLCS. Bases loaded, 2 outs, and it was the 8th. But normally when you're in the backyard playing wiffle ball, it's 2 outs, bottom of the 9th. To win the World Series, and I was able to live that. I was able to go up there, get the base hit, put us into the World Series. And those are the kind of memories that I take away from the sport. But then not only that, it's just, I talked about it before. And to be successful in this game, and you and your dad know this as well, but to be successful in this game, you have to have a thick skin, first off, and you have to have a very short memory. Because if you go up there and you do everything absolutely perfectly correct, and you dead center one, and the second baseman standing right there, you're like, what did I do wrong when I'm walking back to the dugout? What did I do wrong? Nothing. That's the sport. That is, why, you always say, and your dad said it all the time. We talked about it. I mean, I talked about it left and right. Don't piss off the baseball gods. You piss off the baseball gods, and that luck goes the other way. And so, I love the competition. I had so much fun playing in the major leagues, in college and minor leagues. I had so much fun, but I love the challenge. I love the competition. And that's what I miss the most about being retired.
Yeah, and the baseball gods are no joke, by the way. As soon as you say out loud that you're feeling yourself a little bit, I got this figured out. You say it, you act it, guaranteed you're cooked. You're done.
Yep.
And
so, hey, while we're on this subject here, you and I really haven't talked mechanics or anything like that, but you and I have alluded to analytical stuff, right? All right.
Yeah,
so
this is kind of what I wanted to wrap up with, if you're cool with it. So that's
okay, cool. So
perfect.
I'm a big common sense type guy. All right. Common sense, observe, and go from there. Use your brain power. Hey, what you're seeing is what you should be looking for. So anyway, so now, all right, and the great Tony Gwynn and I had this discussion all the time. We couldn't get him out, so he was at first base the whole time. He was my friend. He and I talked mechanics and analytics and everything till you blew in the face. But this is the one thing that I took away from him, and I used it throughout my career, and I teach this today. The baseball is coming this way, all right? Shouldn't you go this way to meet the ball, right? If that is the case, and it's what we call staying on plane. If you're staying on plane with the baseball, you don't have to hit it absolutely perfect. You can hit it here, because you're on plane with the ball. All right. So, yeah, you might pull one, you might hit one up the middle, you might be a hair late, you might hit it that way. Now, the way that these people are teaching, and some of these idiots that are on YouTube and they freaking telling themselves that, I teach Aaron Judge or whatever. They're teaching the ball's coming in here and you're going this way. All right. Your timing has to be absolutely perfect. That's first off. Second off, if you miss it by a smidge, it's either a pop-up or a top or just a strikeout. And, why not give yourself the most opportunities to succeed? If it's coming this way, go right back at it. All right. Boom, boom, boom. All right. If it's coming this way and you're coming up at it, dude, you got holes in your swing about this big and you're going to be exploited. And that's why we're seeing a lot of these bullshit batting averages in the major leagues now, because guys are trying to invent power when they shouldn't.
When you got to know what type of hitter you are too. I think that's another part of when I look at lineups and the lineups that have success. Are you an RBI guy? Are you a power guy? Are you a guy that's going to get on base? Are you a contact guy? Do you use all parts of the field? And I'm always a big believer. You show me some of the best hitters in the world, and I'll probably tell you, hey, they can probably hit it anywhere they want to. That's a whole different conversation. But you got to know yourself, one, but then two, I think one part that keeps getting missed, and you're talking about swinging up or, and not going directly to the baseball. And I see a lot of people that would argue back and go, well, the results when you watch the footage, their bat's ending up swinging up at the end. I want you to talk about this for a second, mindset, because as a hitter, when I always said I'm going to be direct, the results then led to that. But if I always told myself I want to lift, my swing would get long and my bat would be slow. Can you just explain a little bit more about why we tell ourselves to swing more down?
All right. So if you got your hands up and you're coming down this way, all right, we just talked about being on plane. Look at the barrel of the bat. It stays on plane with the baseball. All right. As soon as you bring this shoulder up, that elbow up, that shoulder drops, you get this and you come up at the ball. All right. Which is exactly what we talked about just a second ago. All right. So one of the big things that we talked about in our era, keeping your shoulders square, keeping the front shoulder down, keeping the front elbow down. Take your bottom hand, okay? Whether you're right-handed, whether you're left-handed, doesn't matter. Take your bottom hand and pull. All right. If you pull down towards the ball, all right, look what happens. Shoulders stay level, elbows down, barrel of the bat stays flat coming through. If you trying to pull like this and you try to lift your shoulder at the same time, you're gonna blow out a shoulder. All right. So that was one of the good things about telling yourself, all right, I'm gonna pull my hands to the ball. When you pull your hands to the ball, everything stays square. All right. And you get on playing with that ball quicker. Now, the way that these people are being taught, all right, once you come up, all right, first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna lock out your arm, as you alluded to, and you're gonna have a long swing. So
And I love that. Do you just keep that little bat by your side every time?
yeah, no, I got this one, and then I got my normal one. But Eric Burns and I, we're always walking through something when we're doing our podcast, so I got a little bit of everything.
You're staying busy. Hey, what was the size bat you swung when you?
So
played?
I was a 35-33. This was before, now they're swinging maple and birch and stuff like that. Your dad and I swung ash. And you had to go up in weight to get like really good wood. And so I swung a 35-33. And partner, you get that big son of gun going when you make contact, it's a sound that gives you a little goosebumps on the back of your neck and stuff.
That's what I grew up with understanding. My dad swung a big bat, 35-33 as well. Sometimes could be a 35-32. Maybe if he wasn't feeling good, could up it to a 35-35. Rarely, but I know who did do that was Eddie Murray, because I had him in here.
Yeah.
And Eddie swore some tree trunks when he went to swing.
And Eddie, I played against Eddie.
Yeah.
And, he became my hitting instructor when I was in Baltimore. So I love Eddie. All right. And so, I picked his brain a lot. I picked his brain, being a Dodger, we were playing those guys 18 times a year. And so, him being a first baseman, me being a first baseman, we were always down there on one another, and we would get a chance to BS and get caught up. And, I'd come out and I'd watch him take BP, and I'm like, what are you trying to do here? And what are you trying to do there? And that's what you and I talked about before, is why not learn from the best in the game? All right. They're the best in the game for a reason. They are doing something for a reason. Why don't you ask a few questions, find out what they're doing, and maybe stick it into your game, and you get better.
I think we will start to see a cycle come back a little bit now. And there's certain players I watch. There's one guy, Jacob Wilson. His dad,
kid from Oakland.
Yeah,
I love him.
Dude,
He's an old school. Matter of fact, Eric Burns and I just talked about him. He's old school right there. I'll watch that kid any day of the week.
It's when it's in the zone and it's in the air, he's making contact and he's fighting and he's scratching and he's clawing. Yep. He's also hitting for a high average. Yep. And I know people want to look at slugging and OPS and all that. I think what will never go out of style, in my opinion, is bat to ball skills. If you can hit it, there's going to be a place for you on a major league team.
So you got Wilson doing it, from the right side in Oakland. If you flip it around from the left side, another one from the right side that I really like to watch, and he's playing against us, but is Mookie Betts. I think Mookie does the same thing. I think Mookie grinds. He knows his limitations, but yet at the same time he hunts pitches and stuff like that. And if you flip it around on the left side, another guy that everybody needs to watch is Freddie Freeman.
Yep.
You watch Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman can do it all. He can hit it the other way. He can hit it center. He can turn on it and pull it. He's in the zone quite a long time. So there's just three players right now of the current game that I watch that I'm a fan of.
I mean, Freddie, it's not crazy to say that he could be the best pure hitter in baseball. Like pure, just anywhere,
Yeah.
boom, boom, boom. Not saying power, not saying like, you know what Judge is doing, but pure hitter. Freddie's been doing it. And yeah, it's a big reason why the Dodgers are pretty damn good. They have superstars, but then two of their superstars in Mookie and Freddie are two of the toughest outs to go against.
That is totally correct. Totally correct. Couldn't agree with you more.
I'm sorry your Giants have to deal with them quite a bit. But
hey, look, that's the best. That's the best part right there is, and we used to have it, those interdivision rivalries. I mean, you come out the gate, you get spring training, and that last week in spring training, you're just ready for that bell to ring because you want to face, the Padres and the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks and the Rockies. Flip side of things, Baltimore, they want to play the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Blue Jays and the Rays. They want to play those guys because that's where you make all your ground up. When you're playing head to head, you win that game, you pick up a game, they lose a game. It's actually 2 games. And so it is big time important to win within your division.
It's the most important, actually, when the Orioles were going well, not right now as we record this, but last 2 years, they had dominated the AL East. They were the best team against their division. It's a big reason why they were able to go to the playoffs for 2 straight years and continue to try to get back to being a contender. Now they got some work to do, Will, and that can be for a different time. I could literally talk to you about hitting and baseball and all that. And also for people that are watching this, if Will and I are not talking, him and Eric Burns over on Deuces Wild, right? You guys are doing this.
Deuces Wild on Tuesday nights. We're doing a podcast just very similar to this, and we're going through, granted, we're going to talk about San Francisco Giants because he was a big Giants fan, and I played and worked for him. But we also cover everything in baseball. If there's something going on in baseball, we're covering it. The other day, to give you an example, we're talking about exactly what you and I talked about earlier is grinding through at-bats. Mm-hmm. And the reason being, because my son, who's a huge baseball fan, dad, but he sent me a meme, and it was Tony Gwynn had 434 strikeouts in 20 years, and that Eli De Los Santos from Cincinnati.
Oh, De La Cruz. Yeah,
De La Cruz, excuse me. He's already passed Tony, and he's only been in the big leagues 2.5 years. So it's like, how can you have that much talent as Ely does and not put the ball in play? It's like, dude, put the ball in play. All right. You're the best player first off on your team, but then if you put the ball in play with all of that talent right there, you directly influence every outcome of every game that the Cincinnati Reds play.
No doubt about it. He's got the speed like a Will Clark before he had Coors Light. That's what the comp is right there, right? But you're exactly right. And that's the value of having, when we talk about the guys that are playing nowadays, overall, athletically, there are some really gifted athletes playing this game, extremely gifted. But how do you maximize your potential? And that's the biggest part of the baseball side, figuring out what works for you. And at the end of the day, you said it earlier, you win games. You win games. That's what shows your worth to your team. That's a big reason why when guys get paid the big bucks, so they can look there and go, I want that guy in the situation. We mentioned Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts. Every team in baseball is going to say games on the line. Those 2 guys are going to be on the short list. And hell, Freddie Freeman's a big reason why they took down the Yanks time and time again. Their stars showed up in the brightest moments. So you need that. Will, anything else before I let you, we'll end it there, but anything that you want else plug besides Deuces Wild and you run?
I appreciate you plugging it for me, but just the fact that this was fun. This was talking old school baseball and talking, that we used to do sitting in the clubhouse having a beer. And, for your audience that's going to be listening to this, This is how your dad grew up. This is how I grew up in the major leagues. This is how you grew up, coming through pro ball. And, when you are a baseball player, all right, and it doesn't matter whether you're a pitcher or whether you're a hitter, okay? Don't look at yourself and go and beat yourself up. All right. Don't beat yourself up. Hey, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing this. This is the hardest game in professional sports to play by far. All right. Like we talked about, if I'm a hitter, I got to hit a round ball, round bat while it's moving at 90 plus miles an hour, and I got to dead center it. That's tough to do. All right. They're even making stupid ass bats because guys can't do it no more. All right. Flip side of things, if you're a pitcher, all right, you got to do the mechanic stuff, and you got to get your arm in the right slot and all that, and you got to throw it. The box on TV, yeah, I mean, that's the strike zone, but these guys that are on the mound, they're trying to throw it into something about that big, and it's like, it is tough to do. So all you ball players out there, don't beat yourself up if you're having a little rough go of it. Take a deep breath, trust yourself, and let it fly.
Let it fly. And remember, baseball is hard. And if it was easy, so many more people would do it. And you got to learn to embrace the suck, because it's not a matter if you fail, buddy, you're going to fail a lot. And if you fail even 70% of the time, well, guess what? You're going to go down as being one of the greatest players to play, just like I consider you will. And thank you again. I appreciate you taking the time, and hope to chat with you again in the future.
I don't think I can say enough good things about that Will Clark interview. It's genuinely one of my favorite we've ever done. Listening to Will Clark talk about how to hit a baseball, the differences in today's game, guys that he likes like Jacob Wilson, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, the way he sees the game. I mean, and then the stories on top of that, he and Cal going to bed on the training table. It genuinely is so incredible. So, yes, that was last year, but really appreciate Will Clark for that interview, an hour interview that really just a wealth of knowledge. But before we get out of here, I did want to touch on one thing, because, hey, it's what's hot. It's the hot topic right now. Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's on Twitter. He's on Instagram. He's posting some things. And, well, here's what the most recent one, the gif of boom, with the, I guess, what is that considered? The blushing emoji. And you're thinking, oh gosh, here's Lamar posting more cryptic stuff. But although there have been times, this is a notification. If this is a Lamar Jackson thing, no. Okay. I was like, is that about to be something? So Lamar posted something very similar. Very similar. Let me find that real fast. So while you're like, okay, what's it matter? Well, shout out Sarah Ellison for pulling this up on Twitter as well. Lamar Jackson posted that on April 25th, 2023. Same emoji, different GIF. What's that have to do with anything? Well, this was posted before, I believe it was a day or so before, Lamar Jackson's extension was announced. Could this be nothing? Could this be everything? We don't know. But if we're going off history clues, context clues, using the something could be happening. Something could be happening. We will see what that is over the next 24-ish hours, starting Monday when free agency is really kicking off, the tampering period and all of that. We're going to figure out if this is anything. Can something get done beforehand? Could this be Tyler Linderbaum's coming back? Let me put the actual GIF up. Is this Tyler Linderbaum's coming back? Is this he's got the extension done that would save over $40 million against the cap this year? That would be a lot of fun to play with. Max Crosby, maybe? Who knows? So stick around. If anything big drops, I will be back here live to react to it in the moment. Everyone, have a fantastic Friday. See some people. I know a lot of people are down in Sarasota at the games right now, or I saw Kieran and Laura talk about maybe going tomorrow. enjoy, soak up the Florida sun, have a lot of fun down there, watch some Orioles baseball, and enjoy your weekend. And we'll be back here next week for another edition of the Ryan Ripken Show. Before we get out of here, AutoStream Car Care Center, $50 off when you mention Ryan Ripken. Cannot be combined with other offers. Go check out our friends. They also incredible media team over there. Some of the things they came up with for Ryan to do were incredible. But appreciate everyone. Hit that like and subscribe button on your way out. Have a fantastic weekend, and we'll see you next.